within the company, there was this Jane Tata Award, similar, where all the divisions used to compete for it. So the culture of quality award was quite sort of cascaded and ingrained in the company. Now coming from that, just to explain a bit more on that. So the award has 7 pillars: leadership, strategy, customers, measurement, workforce, operations, and results. So these are the criteria on which a company is judged. Now, leadership cannot stand without strategy. Obviously, both things cannot stand without customers. And everything is interlinked. Essentially, what we're going to do today, while we will be sort of crossing paths with most of these 7 factors, we will be mainly talking about these 6 and focusing more on this. How the organization empowers and involves its workforce. So that's basically, I'm focusing on this aspect of the entire quality business excellence model. So, what we are again saying, the bedrock is culture. Right? So, here, the assessment of various companies in connection with quality awards involves other things, identifying how the vision, mission, and the balance scorecard has been cascaded. Now, this is very important. So, the first part is that we used to start with what is the vision of the company? Where does the company want to go? So, and what is the mission of the company? Once that is identified, so therefore, if that is the vision and mission, what is the balance scorecard of the company look like? So, what is the balance scorecard of the CEO of the company? And therefore, from there, how do we cascade the targets and balance scorecard for all the people to the lowest level manager and staff? So essentially what happens then, it is a test of how good you are communicating the business strategy to the lowest level staff or worker of your company. Otherwise, it's not aligned. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So this is a test case of, it's a real case. When I went to review and audit the GRD QE, we are seeing how the balance scorecard gets cascaded from top to bottom. So, okay, the CEO had a target of top line growth of 5%, bottom line growth of 10%. Let's see. So when we go to the next level, we saw that, okay, if that is the CEO's balance scorecard, what does the CEO have? He has 5% production growth and cost reduction of 5%. It's good, but then comes the problem, is that we go to the next level, he says that I need to produce X million ton, and I need to have a cost of Y dollar per ton. That's his target. Somewhat correlated, fair enough. Then we go to the mine manager and down on to the truck driver and shift in charge. Here, the relation is not evident. I mean, how does number of trips per shift got to do with top line growth of 5%? They don't know. So that was the problem with this KPI, because they are not aligned to what this guy is doing out here. And he is not aware what's happening here. Right? So there is some sort of a cascading, but line managers are unaware of the alignment of the KPIs with the corporate strategy, and what is the impact of their contribution to the corporate objective. So that is not evident in we didn't find that evident in the audit. So what happens? How does it happen? So basically, target setting in a company, generally what happens is that the big boss comes with a target, he sets it up, it all happens where the top bosses sit in the one room and just in a session of 3-4 days or 7 days, they do a target setting on a top-down approach. But the ground realities sometimes get ignored because you're not talking to your line man, right? Also what happens is that this whole knowledge of this whole business, the environment, what's playing, What are the challenges? What is happening? It's all at the corporate level. Nothing comes down. The line manager is not aware what's happening. So they are not aware of what are the challenges and why the targets are being set in that manner. This is another important point that we find that whenever there's a bright young mining engineer comes into the site and he shows himself, he excels, there you go, he's pulled out. No, you're too good to be at the mines, you be at the corporate. So therefore what happens, the mining system, the operation system loses talent. Targets are generally accepted and not challenged because of they don't have the tools, they don't have the analytics, so they just accept this is what it is. Errors in strategy execution becomes a post-mortem affair. I mean, you can only learn that you have done a mistake after it has happened, after you've got the results, and by that time it's 1 month or 2 months late in the process, and your strategy deployment ultimately proves to be inadequate. So, yeah, so this one is basically another glimpse of what sort of responses we were getting in our assessment. It's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, I suppose it's good for the company. Let us stick to our job, let others think about the company's performance, so let's not get deviated, think too much into it. Targets become regimental, something has to be met, something that is impersonal, that is nothing beyond the target. So there are several such feedback that come in. This is my target. Why is my target like this? I suppose you have to ask my boss, I don't know. I'm happy to meet my target. So basically there is a commitment, there is a sort of alignment, but it's a bit shaky. So your ownership is somewhat there, your motivation definitely is there, empowerment definitely not there, and knowledge somewhat there. So that's what we did out of it. So essentially what we gave a OFI was, it was commitment without ownership. You have a commitment, but the ownership is not there. Professionalism without passion, performance without innovation, application without understanding, and conformity without knowledge. So now, it works to some extent, but then you are not in the top tier of business excellence. You will be there somewhere, because you have a commitment from your people, they'll probably try to attain their targets, but there's something amiss in the whole thing. Now, this is what happens when you actually come to a total alignment of your leadership, strategy, leadership, workforce. Strategy talks to information management is aiding workforce, and all four are gelling together. So empowerment stems from this point of confluence, when leadership, strategy, information management, and workforce are all aligned. Workforce needs clear communication from the leadership. Where is the strategy going? What is the strategy? How I want to deploy it? And it needs to be aided by information management to perform. When only this happens, then what happens was empowerment. So, going on from here, essentially, what we are trying to say here, that to cut the clutter, this is to show the tools of leadership and strategy aided with information and analytics drives empowerment that in turn leads to performance. So if you have empowerment, you will have performance. Now, enough of theory of what empowerment is all about. We'll come back to what are we talking about? I'm talking about a KPI driver tree. But the point is that the KPI driver tree is all about empowering your line managers. So without that objective, it doesn't have much of a meaning. And how does that happen? it happens somewhat like this. I'll enhance this and really take you, show you a bit more detail. Essentially what it happens is that your KPI is broken down into individual units, or individual subunits to go to the lowest common multiple, which you need to understand. So a person, for example, here is spot and dump. Someone who is responsible for spot and dump, he will know that if he saves 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes in that, what is the impact that the company will have over the bottom line? How does he understand that? How does he know that? It's only possible when you analyze the data and give to them a tree which is continuously updated with new data to really make them understand that how important the work that he's doing and how much contribution he's making to the company. Now just to expand that, right? You can see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially what we're here, this is one of the trees. Here we are trying to say, okay, so load time trucks is a function of spot of shovel, buckets, number of passes, and spot of dump. Sorry, these two, this and this. These two will determine the load time of trucks, which will in a way go to waste load time, and this is a way it's done. So essentially, the controlling point is not here; it is here. You can't control load time, total load time in trucks. You have to control the spot and shovel time, the load bucket per bucket time. You have also to this is a given number. So this number into this function will give you this. So the control points are identified in this sort of KPI tree. So you can know what exactly you have to control. You're not putting the pressures or not trying to find a solution at the wrong points. Right? For example, waste travel time is a function of waste lead distance and speed of truck. So your focus is here, not here. Right? So this is the way a KPI tree is built in, and finally this tree comes to the derivation of total truck hours for ore and waste. Okay? This is the next one. Again, this one tries to capture or calculate what is the net working hours. This is the end result. But then how does it do it? It goes it calculates the operating delay hours, it calculates the total hours, and then mechanical availability, truck utilization, the lunch break times, truck lunch break, truck fueling time, everything. From there you calculate, finally come to the total net working hours for that year. The last example that I'll show you is this one. This calculates the total trucking cost, another tree, which starts again from fuel cost to the cost of fuel, cost of lube, cost of tires, repairs, others, total trucking cost per hour, into the hours, and finally total trucking cost. The point is that each of these items which have been given here as repair parts, etc., lube can have multiple trees behind them if you want them to be so. Now, so So what? So how does the tree actually operate? What do you make of it? Okay, fine. So I see some mumbo jumbo numbers out here. So how will the actual person use it? Now, that is the part 2 of the presentation where I'm going to show you how exactly it happens. This tree is made out of Excel. This plots the past data into the most granular form, and the tree is developed. So the data will keep on changing. The standards for evaluating your cost and budgeting your cost will keep on change. But then once you have done that, you can actually figure out how this is going to all translate into a sensitivity analysis, so to say. So I'll just go to the Excel. So here is a KPI driver tree. You can see that. Yep. Let me show you a simple thing. So here at the left, I have said, okay, right now I have tried to measure each changing my KPI on 3 parameters. One is, what is the throughput? I mean, is there a change in production? Is there a change in the cost? And is there a change in the total contribution? The contribution, I mean the total revenue minus the total variable cost. So it may so happen that there is a change in cost, so that will be a change in contribution, but there will be a change in throughput, which may also bring a change in contribution, but no change in cost. Did I go too fast on it? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say that a change in production will definitely involve a change in the contribution, because your number of tons go higher, cost will be insane. But if you reduce your cost, so then although there is no change in the production, but your contribution also goes up. So we are going to see how that happens here. Here, for example, can you see? Is it better? Yeah. Okay, so here I have here a driver which is a truck lunch breaks, minutes per shift. I've got a 40-minute lunch break per shift. Now, what happens if I reduce the lunch break timing by 5 minutes? Now, if that happens, my production goes up by 36,000 tons. Yep, and your change in cost, or your actually cost goes up by $86,000, because you're producing more, so your cost actually goes up in $1,000, but your contribution goes up by $1.3 million. So essentially, although your total cost is going up, your net revenue or net profit goes up, right? So the bottom line impact of changing your shift timings by 5 minutes, your person in charge, a shift in charge, can actually calculate that roughly, the impact that it has on the company. The next one, I would say, one second, go there. Okay. So here we are calculating the hours. Okay. So here we have taken the speed of truck to be 30 kilometers per hour. Now, what happens if the speed goes up? If the speed goes up, then in the same time, I produce more. If the speed goes down, then in the same time, I produce less. So suppose I increase the speed by 5 kilometers, 0.5 kilometers. Look what happens. Your throughput has gone up by 54,000 tons. There is a change in cost, but there is a contribution increase of $2 million. So that means if you are able to increase the speed, now this is a theoretical exercise, speed increase is not so easy in our mind. There's depending on gradient, depending on so many other factors. But the point is that if you know what to attack, you can identify which has the maximum impact. So once you have these tools to analyze, then you can probably have a informed value engineering process in the company. Otherwise, you'll be probably focusing on areas which are not going to give you so much of a benefit. The last example I'll show is the last example I'll show is this one, which is basically we are in this model we have assumed a fuel cost of 70 cents. Now, obviously today the 70 cents is not the price of fuel. So suppose we increase the cost of fuel to $1. So you have lost $1.3 million immediately on the same base. Now the funny part is that if I have to make up for this in any other manner, I've showed you three parameters. Say I want to make up for this in trying to save some time in lunch break, right? I want to. This is one sec. Yeah, so I have got a 1.3 million deficit out here. I'm going to reduce your lunch break time to make up for that loss. How much? It's not practical. Don't take it literally that this is what I'm going to do, but I'm just telling you the relationship. I'm going to reduce it by 5 minutes, approximately. Now, point is that the experts like Rushwa and others will laugh at this model. It's not so simple. I agree with you, it's not so simple. But if you suppose break down this model into smaller parts, and then you give it to the people who are actually going to use it, what it clearly tells you is that they can know that some initiative that they want to take at any point in their operations, which is related to them, what is the impact that's going to have in the overall company. That's important. If I know that if I stretch myself for 1 hour extra in this shift or 15 minutes per shift, my company is going to gain $5 million in a year. Who knows what's going to happen? But the point is that the empowerment needs to be there. The choice has to be there. So I'll just come back to the presentation. I'm going to conclude this now. So this has got several advantages. Again, it's all self-explanatory. Now I'm talking about how the top management gains from this one. It's a unique identifier to map existing operations. Right? It helps in goal setting. It uses realistic, achievable target instead of something that you've never achieved in your life. It actually draws on the actual performance of the previous years. It provides analytics and intelligent inputs to strategic direction. It helps identifying areas of cost reduction, improves transparency in the business process, improves control of KPIs down to the smallest unit, and it's easy to implement. It can be done the company as a whole, it can be done for a small department, it can be done maybe in a small area of operations, not necessarily you don't have to go the whole hog for the entire full-fledged process. Now, how does it help the frontline managers? It helps understand their targets. So what's happening? I mean, how many trips do I do? How does it make a sense? How does it really matter? So integrate their performance with the company's goals, highlight their contribution, it boosts their morale, increases the self-worth. It's a change agent for the culture of the organization. Empowerment leads to creativity, that leads to innovation. Empowerment leads to greater focus, greater purpose, and greater ownership. So the closing words is as a low-cost tool. It's an Excel. It's not a fancy software. You just have to have the requirement to get your data up in a certain format. That's it. It's easy to operate. You saw that. Nothing much to be done. It does not involve sophisticated software, does not require extensive training. It is adaptable to any industry, be it mining, manufacturing, agro, etc. It is implementable in modules, starting from each department before integrating into a company-wide model for logistic, power, product, process power. So that's the end of the presentation. Thanks for listening. And any questions? No? Yep.
Would you distribute this Excel sheet to all the lower level managers in your organization so that they can play around with it?
Yes. 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 We have. It's not theory. We have implemented this. Right? So we have distributed this Excel sheet with right protection in certain manner so that data doesn't get corrupted. But it allowed them to toggle and see and change and figure out what is the impact of each. And these sheets are pretty complicated when it really comes to mining. It had complexities like increasing equipment, so that means capital cost, labor cost, drivers. So there's no end to the complexity. We can make it as complicated as possible. Yeah, something. Yeah.
Are you find like counterintuitive like results with the KPI? For example, the track thing. Like you would say, like the track goes faster, it can produce more. But how do you find like maybe there's a point that if the track goes actually faster, like it can increase the another cost, for example, for the company?
Yeah. So that's exactly what you're saying. So the point is that if it goes faster, there is an extra wear and tear on the tires. So there's a relationship between the speed and the tires that gets plugged in, right? So there is a extra sort of relationship between the engine overhauling cycle time on the speed of that. So that everything, it depends on. So that's the beautiful question, which is a balance between a long-term mining plan and a short-term mining plan. So when you are doing a long-term mining plan, your parameters remain stable. They don't change. You cannot arbitrarily change your speed just like that. It's because you want to. Because everything is designed that way. When you want to go for markets have crashed, you want to do something, right? So what do? You take a thought. So if I increase the speed of the truck, what impact would it have on the overall mining plan? That means the overhauling cost that was supposed to come after, say, 3 years is now going to come after 2.5 years. So this will help you to get to that sort of modes. It will answer you the questions. I mean, what I'm trying to again tell you is that your question is right. Once you have a good tree, this will automatically show up as a result. Yeah.
You mentioned that Tata Steel is using this tool regularly. Are there other industries that you know of that are using the same sort of format?
Tata Steel has, I have used this tree in the mining. Tata Steel has used that in steel. So steel is like a manufacturing company. I am not aware of any other company which has used it. I learned it from McKinsey. So I guess they have implemented it in other places, but I'm not aware. Yeah?
How are the relations of, okay, I'm increasing some speeds and I'm producing more with my truck fleet, but maybe my crusher capacity is not enough for this increased tonnage that comes in? How does queuing or longer queues, how is it
Well,
implemented?
you are absolutely right. So the point is that the model will have to take into account what is the maximum feed that you can. I mean, you cannot just go on theoretically increasing the speed from 30 to 100, and then it won't work, right?
Yeah.
So there is
There's
a
other bottleneck.
limiting factor which gets built in to say that your maximum capacity, those are constraints that get built in. So constraints have to get built in here. You cannot just, your plant is supposed to produce at this rate, you cannot just tinker with that. If you have to do that, then you have to put in another plant. So that's another tree altogether. So we are not talking about that. But you're right. So these are the things that once you put in logical manner, then this tree works perfectly. But what I'm trying to say that the tool is there. How you design it for yourself is a different matter. You got experts to do it for you. You will have geologists telling you how this mine will happen. You know, technical people telling you what are the constraints for this plant to operate or take more feed, less feed, quality. There is no end to complexity. If you do a KPI tree for sales, the quality parameters, each and every quality parameter will have a totally different impact on the revenues. So, and the quality parameters will be dependent on the mining parameters, from where you want to mine, which pit, which blending, what blending. So everything when you get linked up, that if you swap between mine A and mine B, you have a higher cost, but then what is the higher revenue? Right? So that is the simulation that people like Russo probably is doing day in, day out. I know our friends in DRA, McGill, they have been doing it. Again, you guys are also aware of it. But I'm saying that once you put the same logic in this tree, your people can get much more important. Yeah?
I see your model organized in a tree shape.
Yeah.
So in the example, the information goes from right to left.
Yeah,
Right
so
to left. I mean, from this side to the other one, which means on the same level of the tree, all the nodes, they are independent, all the factors, they are independent. Such as you change the from 30 to 35, does this impact the inspection per shift? Since they are two independent nodes on the tree. Shall we add some lateral connection?
okay, so you are saying that if I change the production, if whatever I do, I change the production per day, right? So will it automatically take the changes in other related KPIs which are linked to production? Is that what your question?
If you go to the slide of that 30 to 35,
Yeah. Yeah, this one?
yeah, what happened is this node, could you look at here? This node, and let's say inspection. They are independent, are they? If you change this number keeps still, right? Since all the connections are going this way,
Yeah, this model assumes that.
can
But
we
if
add
you-
the lateral connections between those two?
We can, but I'm saying that this model assumes that your lunch break doesn't have any link with the inspection time.
But it
shift.
could be. So.
I mean,
You could.
in the perspective of this model,
Yeah, in
rather
that
than
case,
the one-way direction, can we
in-
add a lateral connection?
in that case, what will happen? This will not be independent. This toggle will move away, so you have no control on that. See, wherever this toggles have been put, these are all the variable factors. If a factor is linked to another factor, for example, this is linked to these factors, I cannot change it directly. So if you are saying that the equipment inspection time is linked to your lunch breaks in any manner, then this will be a formula will link this in some manner. I will not have the ability to toggle this independently. You can design it in any way you want.
So the assumption is all the input factors, they are independent.
For example, I have no control on total hours. This is God hours. I can't change it. It's 365 times into 12 into whatever. Okay? So 24. 365 into 24 hours is that. Yeah.
We can make the tree as complicated as we can based on the different variables, but how do we know how complicated it should be for some
That will depend on what you want. I'm saying that suppose I'm trying to do a tree for the only my sales. I say that okay, I have got this product and I've got these markets and I've got these freight costs, right? Forget mining. I'm just saying a product, markets, freight, and price. I can do whatever with that sort of thing. I can figure out that okay, which market there is a demand, these are constraints, etc., etc. I can build up a tree in that manner with giving those constraints to all this stuff, right? So it depends on how much complication you need. Whether the tree is to look for a year or the tree is to look for several years. Ideally, this tree is meant for 1 year. Ideally. The question that he asked that what is the impact on a long-term plan? That's a separate spreadsheet that gets populated behind this. Behind this, to plot that same data in the tree into the first year of operations. Actually, I'll just sorry. Look, so essentially what happens, this is the base data which is plotted. And there is a way to change this data when we toggle. There's a way to change it and then it picks up from here, takes it there, and it gives you the result. So there's a huge amount of data that is required for this tree to right? And I've only shown you a part of the whole mining model because there is blasting, there is drilling, there is enormity of it. So, right? So this is a flare of it. So it depends what you want. Any more? Thank you so much.